But you're always going to have naysayers say it doesn't matter what the price points are going to be, that they say it's unaffordable. So you got to be careful when you say affordability, because things could drop 50%, 75%, and you're still going to have people saying, well, this is still too expensive. You're never going to satisfy those people.
Yeah.
So it's very subjective.
Welcome back, everybody. We're back for episode 12 with Mr. DC himself. My brother, how you doing?
Doing all right.
Yeah.
Agent.
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 Yo, are you trying to swagger jack me now? I see you with the blue, the navy.
You're just copying me, brother.
No, you're trying to be like me, bro.
Maybe. You have a better smile than me.
Oh, no. I think you have a better smile than me too, man. You know what I mean? This week, I've been reading like a bevy of articles from BlogTO, and it's just not this week, but it's been the week before, the week prior.
It's since the market has been shifting. It's like every week they're trying to make the media loves to be negative when it comes to real estate.
Why do you think they over sensationalize the true reality of the market?
It's a good question, because it's like, it doesn't matter what market you're in, it's always going to be negative, right? So when the market was doing really hot, it's like, oh my God, Torontonians can't afford the market. What's going to happen? It's going to crash. Now the market has come back down to normal levels. Oh my God, nobody wants to buy here, or nobody wants to sell in Toronto anymore. So I don't know if it's a way for them to sell newspapers, just to sensationalize everything. But at this point, it's kind of ridiculous sometimes, because a lot of us we're in a go lifestyle that many times people will just read the headlines without actually reading the article, and then they'll be like, oh, and they'll think whatever the article is saying is actually truth. But there's a number of times where you have to read into it. And I've done some videos on some of these articles, and people are just ripping on me like, how can you say that? I'm like, did you even read the article?
Yeah.
What it's actually saying?
And I was curious too, like, because in your space, how does this impact your transactions and the people that you're dealing with? Because do they come to you like, man, David, I read this on da-da-da-da-da, and they're hesitant to buy or they're hesitant to sell just because the information that's out there is false?
Well, that's what they'll ask my opinion, right? They'll call me like, oh, I saw this article. I'm like, did you read the article? And like, or there was another article, which we'll talk about a little bit too. It was about, how people can afford mortgages and stuff too. And so my client sent it to me, and I'm like, did you read the sample size? And I sent it, he goes, oh, no, I didn't read that. I'm like, yeah, you got to be careful what you're saying, right? Every time when the Toronto Real Estate Board comes up with something, they say, like, I always have the naysayers who are always looking for negative things in the real estate stuff. Will say, well, you're only pulling out the highlights, the ones you want to see. And I'm like, not the ones over here, which Treb should be looking at. And it's like, well, that happens with the media. They're the opposite. So you have one side of the argument always pushing the positives. You have one side always pushing the negatives. So it's up to us to educate our clients. So I love the fact that my clients reach out when they send these articles, and we'll have a discussion about it. I was like, well, there's some truth to this, but now they're stretching this, or this is total bullshit. They're just trying to sell papers. Or ad space, or whatever.
Trying to sell clicks.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm curious, man. So you have all these articles, all these different organizations. Let's stick to one, BlogTO. They pump out these articles like maybe once a week, right? Have you ever felt like by this over exaggeration of information that might not be false actually shapes the reality of it? Let's say
like predictive programming. You're
predictive programming, right?
Yeah.
Over and over, and then the market actually becomes that.
Well, it was funny. An economist was talking the other day, and he was saying they keep throwing the recession, the R word around. They keep pushing they want, and it's like, if you keep saying enough, people put in their mind, and they'll start behaving like it is a recession, and then a recession will happen.
Yeah.
So there's a predictive programming in as well, and that's why you have to be very careful when you're looking at articles and forming an opinion, making sure you're talking to experts in whatever field it is, because let's be honest, like most of the people that are writing articles, that's their job to write articles, but they're taking some parts which they find is interesting and they're writing on it. They're not writing on the whole aspect, and that's fine. It's like, it's our job to help, weave through everything. 'Cause let's be honest, if I talked about the real estate market, if it was in a normal balanced market like it is now, it's not as exciting, like there are bidding wars happening even now, but we talk about that. Like I saw one the other day, it's like, oh, bidding war happened for 11 offers, like that's, normal. I saw one 2 weeks ago for 29 offers in Oshawa. Like it happens, right? But it's usually, they're just picking one aspect and just overblowing it, I think, a lot of times. And, you know, that's part of their job, right?
Yeah. So Treb came out with another article like recently. They're saying that there's going to be more upticks in homes this year being on the market. Like, what's your opinion on that?
We've been saying that for a long time. Yeah. So we've had a lull in the market. Like we had around, 5,000, 3,000, 4,000 sales in the last few months, which is low. One of the reasons for that was that a lot of the buyers that were probably supposed to buy in 2022 and 2023, when had low interest rates, opted to purchase with low interest rates. And then with the scare of the market, right? Well, sort of the interest rates increasing of 4.25% in just over a year, it really slowed down the market. People trying to figure out what's happening, how much affordability. So what Treb was saying is that now that pretty much people got a foothold of what's happening in the market, and that they look at affordability, they're seeing what they can afford, and prices have come down, right? So, but now people are still looking in the market. So it's understandable what's happening there. But now also the fixed rates are looking to decrease. So affordability is increasing, and now there's more buyers out there. So purchasing power, even though interest rates may be increasing, the fixed rates are decreasing. So purchasing power is increasing. So it's getting people think again.
We throw this word around all the time, like affordability. That is different in certain regions. Like if I say a house is more affordable in Sarnia, people will know what that means. When someone says a house is affordable in Toronto, it's a completely different thing than comparing Toronto to Sarnia. So how do you define affordability for those people who don't really understand what that means? Like what factors go into saying the Toronto market is affordable right now?
So when we talk about affordability, it would be more of basically we look at the past trends and how the market has reacted. So if you looked at, for example, January, we're going to use January numbers, in 2020, so 2021, the prices went up 29%, which was almost from year to year. People didn't earn 29% more. So affordability decreased. It's just based on those sheer factors, right? And now that in January, the numbers came back down 16.4%, it made it more affordable for them as opposed to they were the year had passed. So we'll talk about affordability standards. You're assuming most of the time year to year, income increases, again, not to the same level as housing, but now it's getting closer to a price where it's not spiking and then continue to increase, or most people can't afford. Now, the problem is here in Toronto is that, like, we already know the price point's about over $1 million, for average homes, including condos throughout all home types. Not everybody can afford that at the present moment, but there are certain, home types of what you could purchase to get in your foot in the door and to purchase that. But you're always going to have naysayers say it doesn't matter what the price points are going to be, that they say it's unaffordable. So you got to be careful when you say affordability, because things could drop 50%, 75%, and you're still going to have people saying, well, this is still too expensive. You're never going to satisfy those people.
Yeah.
So it's very subjective.
And I think...
Does that answer your question? Or is that...
It does. It does. And I think when we talk about affordable, we don't really look at other things that really make things not as affordable as they could. One of the things I was looking at is like the cost of actually building these homes and buildings. The costs have increased, right? So like by the materials, the supplies, like everything has gone up in price. So that increase has actually caused like the homes or the condos to be even more expensive per square footage, let's say, than it would have been if like materials were like maybe, I was seeing here it's jumped over 21% year over year in the cost of this. And this is something that people don't even talk about enough, is like when you talk about affordability, they're thinking about the things that they can actually control. But the external factors such as this, on the builder side of things, we forget to really analyze that and seeing what's behind the closed door that actually make this, like maybe Toronto or any other, even just Ontario alone, the pricing of these materials have gone significantly higher, and they're going to continue going up and up.
Labor costs too.
Labor costs too, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's true. Like, the pandemic really brought in, like when we had like lack of supply of even materials. Like we had pieces of lumber going up 14%, like sort of 400, 500, 600%, whatever it was. I think it was like, I remember like a linear foot, it was like $2 went to $14 a linear foot, which is like a 700% or 600% increase. It was insane. But yeah, the funny thing is, and now it's coming back down, but it's still higher than it was, correct? So before the pandemic, prices of actual Building materials have increased. The one thing I thought was interesting to see is how affordability is going to be affected now with the labor force. Okay. And I was at a conference, and the economist put something in perspective, and it's like, because the prices have increased so much, and now with interest rates increasing, what happens in pre-construction is you're qualifying early, and then you're expecting the interest rates to stay somewhat stable. But now when these properties are coming to fruition, in which they're going to close on, many people can't afford to purchase them, or they're going to be, once they close, they're going to be in the red when they're renting them out, right? So it's going to be higher because of the high interest rates. I'm actually personally going through this right now. The interest rates are killing me on one of my rental properties, but it's a different story. Anyway, so because of that, there's been a lot of assignment sales, right? We talked about in the past, assignments when you buy something before it's built, and then you don't want to go to the closing, you sell the paper. So basically sell your paperwork to another buyer, and that's an assignment sale. And there's a lot of assignment sales now because people are running their numbers, and there's the affordability. It doesn't make sense. So what the builders are now realizing is that, like, there's not been a big appetite for investors to purchase pre-construction. So they've been starting to pull back hold off on some of their investments and to go forth with some of these condo builds. Now in Toronto, we know that we're still behind the times we need to vamp up the amount of housing we need in here, but we still have the most cranes as anywhere in the world, which means we have the biggest labor force creating and the labor force is building these units. So what happens when these buildings now get already finished, and now the builders have turned off the tap for a short period of time? You have a huge labor force, which is going to go back into the residential market and now building homes, and now there's going to be more competition. So therefore, theoretically, the price for the labor force to build homes should decrease. So it should somewhat offset some of the building materials. So could affordability for building a home be a little more affordable the next few years, is like what the economists said. And I'm like, it makes sense, right? So it's interesting to see what's going to happen at that point.
So what path do you see to affordability for housing in Toronto? Because if we're not really...
You got to elaborate on that, because what do I see? Is it continue to say affordable? Are you talking about in Toronto? Or are you talking about
GTA.
Canada, GTA?
GTA.
And what do you consider affordability, right?
So affordable is like the average average family.
Yeah.
Let's say they're looking to rent out like a townhouse or a condo. They're priced out of what they can afford, right? So how do we build that I won't even say sustainable housing, but there's families that are moving here from different parts of the world to immigrate to Canada, but they land here and they're like, man, there's no way you can afford this.
So one statistic, so within 4 to 5 years, immigrants usually purchase a home here in the GTA. Many times they'll group 2 or 3 families together to be able to afford that. So for home ownership is always a coveted prize for immigrants, and it should be. It's great. So in other countries, you're not able to purchase, right? So that has also helped a lot of the affordability for some new immigrants. The second thing is we need to build more, right? That's a big thing. But the funny thing is, when we're looking at metropolitan cities, when you compare us to, say, the rest of the world, we're still a bargain. I know. And I was talking to one of my financial planners. We talk about this all the time. His name's Jason Pereira. And he's always funny. He's like, when he talks to people in Toronto, he's like, because we live in a country where we've been afforded in a good way, that we're able to purchase one home, multiple homes, and rent them out. He goes, oh, what do you think about people who live in like Paris, Hong Kong, and like there's no such thing as home ownership. Rome, those people are renting. And he goes, actually, he thinks we're going to push towards close to more people in Toronto renting. And I pushed back and said, we better not, So I think we're doing a really good job trying to keep things more affordable. As much as we hate personally the interest rate increases, it's brought affordability down. But we also need to do a better job of, hopefully helping the workforce, increasing prices a little bit too. So there's so many external factors. Like, the problem is when things get too affordable. I think that's why they put up that foreign purchase ban, because if things get, because that's why the interest rates increase, affordability goes down. You don't want foreign buyers coming in and purchasing, scooping all those up, and then we're back at square one again. Although only about 2% of, I think it's here in Toronto, of purchase were from foreign buyers. But I can kind of see, if they knew they're going to do this and make, like, quote unquote affordable. I think we're doing it's at a better position now. But if they really, we know they're going to have to decrease interest rates in early 2024, at least. I think that's the earliest they're saying. Prices should go up, but I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know if it's going to be exponential like we had in 2022 or the end of 21, or is it going to be somewhat increasing back to the levels where we're typically between a 6 to 7% increase per annum.
Yeah, it's always like fluctuating all the time, right?
All the time. Like the real estate market always does this. But as long as the trajectory over a period of time is going up, that's what we're looking for.
Yeah.
We don't want to have something in the 80s where, remember, like it was, well, you weren't alive. And like literally overnight it dropped and it stayed low for like a period of time. We're always trying to make sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Because then there's so many lives that are tied up in real estate, and not just realtors. We're talking about builders. We're talking about like construction workers. We're talking people that work at like Home Depot. Like there's a stat, something like 80% of people that have jobs in Canada are somewhat tied into the real estate world. So if no one's buying homes, that affects 80% of the population. It's a big drop.
Insane, man.
It's insane.
So like with Treb saying that more homes are going to be bought next 2023 this year.
Yeah.
There's been a significant amount of layoffs happening everywhere. If you like a tech, if you look at any sector, Google, Twitter, all these firms are letting go of people. So people are going to be without jobs. So I kind of found it conflicting really looking at that, like where, okay, so you have this labor force out here. They don't have any income coming in.
But where is most of the tech companies? Where like, so Treb is like Toronto Real Estate's GTA.
So Google, Twitter, Clearco. I was working at Clearco with Michelle Romano. Well, Simple, like all these companies which really employ a lot of people are letting go of talented people off their jobs. So with more people looking for jobs, and the last thing that they want is buying a house. From your experience of just like understanding the data better than I can understand it, it just seems conflicting when you have all these people out here with no work, but then they're saying that there's going to be more houses being sold or people buying houses.
But the labor force is also steadily increasing. That's why the interest rates are going up, and they're thinking again, this is going to go up again. So I think there's 150,000 jobs created. So even though some of the big companies are decreasing, it's still not offsetting the unemployment rate, right? So there's that. Plus, good old Justin Trudeau bringing in like an extra 500,000 people every year. He's going to fill some of those spots. So we have a lot of people coming in. So finding jobs. So the problem is the unemployment rate isn't at a point. Well, not the problem, but the thing is, Treb is looking is the unemployment rate. In order for it to make a significant drop, would have to also the employment rate also needs a huge significant drop. So what they're looking at is like the current numbers are like there was 150,000 jobs created, which means people are affording more, have a higher income. There's also very, very low inventory, but a lot of people still need a place to live. So even though there's supposed to be 70,000 sales this year, it's still a lot less than it was the previous year, much as a far cry from the 2021, where we saw over 120,000 sales. That's 50,000 sales less, right? So they're saying they can see an uptick, because affordability is still there for and most of the people, let's be honest, a lot of people that are getting let go, a lot of them weren't in the home purchasing power anyway. Yeah.
And what age bracket is that then? Is that like the 40s and up age bracket? Like
that can afford it, the homes? Yeah. So even during COVID, they were saying, I think over 95% of people that were over in the purchasing power, their jobs weren't affected by COVID. So that's what they're looking at, those stats as well. Yeah.
And you'd think like those people who are in that bracket are already so established that they've already purchased a home already.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So they have, or maybe they're moving up. Let's be honest, what keeps us in business is death and divorces as well, and or increasing or decreasing the amount of kids you have. That also affects. So those don't change, right? So we can still see that. That's still going to happen. And unfortunately, we've had a lot more mental health issues in the last number of years, which we've seen play out in many more divorces than we thought we can see. So people get divorced, there's maybe a sale of one home and a purchase of two others, like, so there's an increase in sales. So you can see there's other underlying factors besides, just unemployment.
You know what's crazy? So we have a lawyer friend, and
You have no friends. Who are you kidding? I'm just kidding. Besides me.
He was saying, like, man, debts and divorces keep me in business. And it sounds so crude to say that, because like these are people's lives, but your livelihood is dependent upon someone getting a divorce or someone dying and needing to sell their house. But it's just the nature of life. Like, things,
people always need to houses, like buy and sell houses, like that, like the way that we are right now, like people need a place to live.
Yeah.
And you might sound crude from the outside, but it's true, right? Like, but the other thing is, like, the thing that should ring true to the reason why we're building more condos is, like, God didn't make any more land, right? It's like, that's all, like, that's what we're building up. So they're trying to combat the amount of add inventory to the market, which hopefully should help stabilize and give more affordability. But more people are building, so builders are building condos because, economies of scale. They just make more money when you go up as opposed to out when you're building houses. But that the higher echelon of people aren't looking for tons of condos, right? Until there's a paradigm shift in the mind in which, which high rollers only want like $4 or $5 million condos. I don't see that a lot of times. They prefer to have detached homes.
There's an idea that came to me a couple of days ago, and I want to run it by you. So if we have this flood of immigration coming in, and that's actually making the demand of like housing go higher, but this low supply, what do you think about them funneling new immigrants to other parts of the country? Like saying, well, we have a population control of Toronto, Ontario to be at this. We can only let a select few of immigrants each year to Ontario. But if you want to come to Canada, you have to go to like Calgary or Vancouver, Saskatchewan, like places where there's needed labor. But the thing is, it's like you're restricting someone of the autonomy that they have over themselves to actually decide where they want to live. Maybe they have family in Ontario, but you're forcing them to go to Saskatchewan.
The problem with that, Owen, is that, it sounds good on paper.
Yeah.
But from the last economists that we were talking through, who they're bringing into Canada, a lot of these are top shelf people. So they want to be in economies where they're also top shelf.
Exactly.
So in order to draw
top
talent, you have to provide them great places to live. So unfortunately, the properties that aren't populated, there's a reason for why they're not populated, unless there's something drawing them towards there. So if you took like someplace in Saskatchewan, which is, maybe a rural area, and you made it into a mecca for them to come, they could build on there too. It's going to take years. It's something which could totally be doable, but it's not in the plans right now. So I think that's the problem with that plan. Like, why do people choose Ontario, for example, over say Montreal? Montreal's got such great history. It's beautiful. It's like, it has all the water, the Saint Laurent. It's great. Well, sometimes there's a language barrier. If you're building a business, they also have to add French into certain things. And like, if you're only English speaking, like certain languages, you have to hire somebody to just put all the French wording, and you have to hire maybe people where they're bilingual. So there's barriers of entry, right? And if you're in, like, for example, BC, right? Like there's more people coming to Toronto, right? So it's because that's seen more of the Mecca. It's close to everything, right? And like even for politicians and everything else, it's Toronto's closest to the U.S. Whereas BC is fine, but it's like, it's great, it's beautiful, but the mountain, I just find that the business sense is like that business. What's the word I'm looking for? I just find businesses are coming here.
The economic sense, it doesn't make economic sense for someone with such high market value to go live in a place where maybe there might not be demand, but just for the sake of you moving there, But
I'm just talking about businesses too. It made more. That was the cost of living in Vancouver is much higher, or was, than it was in Toronto. So if businesses between the three of them, which are three major cities, between Montreal, Toronto, and Vancouver, Toronto was just like, it just made sense for those reasons. That's why more business were coming here. There's more opportunities. Hence, we're over 1/3 of the immigrants we bring into Canada stay in the GTA area.
I mean, there's also places like Calgary too. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, Calgary's great. The problem we find with Calgary, is some of these places like not the problem. The problem Calgary had, they're trying to draw people from Ontario, but most of their economy is based on oil. and it goes in, and it's basically like it goes, the economy goes as the oil goes, right? So it's hard to, that even housing prices, everything else is basically established on that. So it's hard to bring somebody to draw over there if that's not their only economy, right? So yeah, again, there's a lot of work that could be done, but right now it's not a short-term answer.
Yeah. I just like to find some market equilibrium. There needs to be like some certain barometer set of like, okay, this is how much we can do this per year for immigrants, and this is how much we can like let them in, and we got to funnel them to this place. So there's more housing for people who've already been here and they're not priced out. And there's people who can actually afford housing, and even like rental prices as well too. Like they're going up each and every single year because of the, what we spoke about last week when we were recording.
Yeah, but the affordability.
Not affordability, but if I own a property, like a rental property, I can hike up the rent as far as I want it.
No, you
know what I
can't.
mean?
Well,
No, you can't.
If you're built after November 2018, yes, you can.
Exactly, right? So that's what I'm saying. I'm just like trying to think about different unique ideas that can actually bring equilibrium to the market, like where there's a good enough of supply and demand, and people who are actually talented can go into different places in the country. So it's just Toronto's not like the hot destination of like immigration, even though it is, but just to find some balance in it, so we don't have articles being written like this, like nobody's buying a house in Toronto because everyone's.
Yeah, you didn't mention what the article said, so it's funny. We were talking about it. So what Owen is referring to, I sent him an article, and the headline said, why don't you read out there what the headline said?
Nobody's buying Toronto homes anymore as demand drops to lowest level in years.
Yeah, and when I told you to read the article, what was the article actually about? Who's not buying the houses? It's the pre-construction.
Pre-construction, exactly.
Yeah. When you read that headline, everyone thought it was, oh my God, no one's buying houses in Toronto. It's the actual opposite. Houses in Toronto are still selling fast. So yeah. But so I forgot your question.
No, I mean, it wasn't even a question. It's just some commentary I was making in terms of like, with just people in my demographic where we're at and being understanding like where we're going, like where our careers are going, there should be some level of like, if immigration is impacting, as a nurse said before, and how the market is being constructed, is we should like governing bodies should be setting certain things for immigration towards other places in the country.
Of course.
So Toronto doesn't get flooded with.
And like I said, that again, in theory, it's great. But what happens if want your business to grow and you're living in Toronto? Are you going to be voting for somebody in Ontario to push jobs out of Ontario? Are you going to be pushing for somebody in as a PM of Canada to push possible immigration into Canada, into Toronto? Just that means that could be hundreds of thousands of dollars out of your pocket. Would you vote for that? Just a thought. Like it sounds good to balance everything out. I just don't see it's going to happen. I just think there's too much red tape, and if there's an organic growth of a community, then I could see it. But forcing people there too, based on like it'd have to be either somebody puts into billions of dollars into developing properties which are not inhabitable or not close to Toronto. It just makes economic sense, and bringing in tons and tons of investments. That's the only way it's going to happen, because if you're relying on politicians, well, politicians aren't going to stick their neck out if they're going to lose their job. And I get it, right? Like, it's like, I'm just being honest here, right? Like I say, like if Toronto's where you're getting, so some people in Toronto that can't afford housing and stuff too would be definitely on your side. But then you have people that are entrepreneurs or CEOs of businesses in which need people in Toronto and need the labor force here. And they're like, totally would shut that down. So
there's no way out of this, pretty much, is what you're saying.
I didn't say that. I'm just saying.
You're implying it.
I'm implying if somebody puts enough, if somebody's smart and they want to do like build in the areas that you're talking about, like you get a group of people together, I think that would work. It's not me. I'm not a billionaire. But, you know what I mean? I don't have all those connections. You know. That I think it's possible. I just don't think it's going to happen as quickly as you think it's going to happen. Yeah. And I also think in order to keep bringing in the immigration that we want to bring into, we have to offer them something for them wanting to come. If you're offering them somewhere in Nunavut, where they're like, they can't, like if they're a doctor and their only job to do is like, if you're in Nunavut, they're like, okay, your job is to, I don't know, be a cashier at 7-Eleven or something like that. So like, they're not going to come.
They're not going to reach. Yeah.
They're not going to come.
Yeah. As we work towards wrapping up, I'm seeing like rent prices are increasing like each year for like
Your nose is flaring up when you said that. You're not happy about this, are you?
Do you think we can reach like an unprecedented like amount of like what rent could be? For example, like 4K. You know, like New York prices, they're like, okay, 4,000 for a one bedroom.
New York prices.
Can you see that in Toronto happening?
Yeah, I can. I think it's going to take a little time shift, I think. But now that the interest rates have increased, so the reason why rental prices have gone up is because people can, the affordability we talked before, like now, like with the new interest rate increases, people can afford to put less money down. They're not qualifying for mortgages, and their only option right now is you're renting. So you're getting high quality renters. Well, if you continue to get these high quality rents and rents keep increasing, and then if you have no restrictions if you're built after November, well, the landlords also need to make money, and otherwise they're not going to keep the property. So they also need to increase interest rates.
Yeah.
So, rental rates. So at a certain point, there's going to be a tipping point at which somebody's going to say like, okay, fine, I'm paying $5,000 in rent. I might as well go buy a shitty little condo for $300,000 or $400,000, you know, crawling with mice. But at least it's like, I'm not, can that happen? Well, maybe there is those properties. At some point, I think more people start doing that, then rental rates will start coming down. But we're not at that critical mass at this point. Like I was talking the other day with my wife, and one of my rental properties we started beginning of this year, and we bought the condo off of I have a line of credit, so we basically ebb and flow as the Bank of Canada decides to increase interest rates, and you know I'm making just under $2,000 a month on it, you know, and then I was paying $700 in $750 I think a month in interest. There's no point in paying it off; it's paying interest right off the interest. Well, and plus for $400 in maintenance plus taxes, right? So I was making a few $100 a month. Well, now my line of credit is over $2,300 plus maintenance fees, and my rents haven't gone up. Plus my work, so I'm running in the red at least $1,000 a month. How long am I going to keep that, right? So either increase the rents, force my client, my tenant, either move out. So by increasing the rents, because again, I'm not under rent control, or sell the unit or something, then bring them back in. So yeah, this is hitting home. Like this is where all of this. So it's. I feel bad for the renters because they're saying, well, "Why are you increasing my rent by $400?" I'm losing $1,000 a month. $1,000 a month. So why should I like? It's a lot of money to lose, and plus the pandemic hit me pretty hard too. I had a vacant for a while too, and I was also losing money then. So it's not all sunshine and rainbows even on the renter side. Sometimes we need, and thank God I have other investments which help, you know, mediate offset that. Right. Exactly. But if I didn't, that was my sole like rental property, I'd be shitting bricks.
Yeah, you'd probably sold it or probably moved on from it or increased the rent.
So, which I can't. Yeah, I can't yet. I'm thinking about it, so I'm figuring out what my next moves are. But that's pretty common right now.
Yeah, amazing. Well, DC, this was a great chat. Always a great breaking down the economy and getting your insights on it. Ladies and gentlemen, let us know what you think about what's going on. Do you trust these media outlets and what they're telling us? And we know, where do you even go to get true information these days? I mean, there's
call me.
You can call DC, but there's always truth baked into some false information. So you just got to learn to trust maybe established writers, people who have a history of like writing factual information, and just take whatever you can get from the information you can that you're reading, and take what you can do from it. But all in all, this is a DC Talks podcast. Your co-host, Agent 00. Remember, like, share, and subscribe to the podcast, and we'll see you next week for a brand new episode.
And don't be afraid to reach out to me.
Reach out to DC if you need anything.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram. I got my emails all over the place. So
exactly.
I'm everywhere, but it's probably easiest to reach out to Instagram.
Yeah. You're on that like white on rice, you know. So
me and my assistants. Yeah.
Anyways, bye. See everybody.
Ciao.